grounds. It was a little different world then, but I'm circling back now. So besides writing poetry and various other things I do, I do translations from indigenous languages. So this is a book of indigenous language translations from ancient American poets, from pre-Columbian poetry. So I'm going to read you just as an invocation, I'm going to read you a short poem by the greatest poet of ancient Mexico, Nezahualcóyotl. The poem is called Ikwaknimikis, or When I Die. No nansin, Ikwaknimikis, motlequilpa shinechtoka, iwan ikwak, tlatitash kashchiwas, ompa no pampa shichoka, iwan tlatanis siwapili, tlekatichoka, zanwaliwi kiknanquili, chojoltik inquahuitl iwan popoka. And this is my translation. It's When I Die. Mother, when I die, bury me beneath your hearth. And when you make tortillas there, cry for me. And if someone asks you, dear lady, why the tears? Answer quickly, smoke is in my eyes, for the firewood is wet and green. So that was Nezahualcóyotl. The lake of our emergence. What is a word? A meaningful vibration. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was creation. Rock, air, fire, water, oak leaves, ocean waves, tropical jungles, oscillates, gasps of ecstasy, groans of love. We look into each other's eyes as we pass in the street. We don't say a word, but we understand the meaningful vibrations beyond words or before words, both before and beyond words at the same time. All living things, all non-living things, music, waterfalls on this planet and beyond, flocks of small birds in the early morning, crickets at dusk, the gurgle of a baby, the voices in a singing brook. What are words? Meaningful vibrations. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was creation. We walk these slippery banks along the lake of our emergence, the center pole of our world, our muddy port of entry into this forest, our origin of place, our place of origin. We step from the lake into the place we belong. Only briefly do we walk here today, learning how to be indigenous. These restless streets we pace, where our unborn great-grandchildren play. Breezes blow wavelets rolling toward the far shore, while around us hushed fields of poppies grow, and beneath our feet rocks melt and caverns of magma flow. The uniforms, face shields, nightsticks, separating brother from daughter, sister from mother, do not separate illusion from delusion. All truth is recreated each morning when a small bird peeks out of a nest hidden in a lilac bush by the water's edge. To be able to walk here since the world began is a gift of inexpressible joy. Who gets to claim this wild, watery homeland as their own? Who gets to call it home? Every place is the center of the world, and everywhere is our place of origin. Success. We meet clinging to the cliff at the edge of the world after a long journey. You are here. You have survived. I have enormous respect for you, for that accomplishment. You are clever, fast, persistent, enduring, wily. The simple fact that you're alive is proof. You needed to be in order to survive through this blood-soaked mess and chaos. Any glance at history will demonstrate they keep killing each other every day, almost anywhere we look. Bedlam and mayhem, and they've been doing that since as far back as anybody chooses to remember or to forget, since time never began. While in the thick of it all, you and I, direct descendants of the long stream of life back through the first pre-humans, and before that, to whatever form we took way back when, you and I have somehow made it through all this chaos and murder together. It's been quite a journey, and it hasn't been easy. So it's a victory for all of us. We have arrived at this place. We are the winners, the survivors. But where do we go from here? Mirages. So maybe you're right after all. It all just comes down to perspective. We were probably just chasing shadows, phantoms in the smoke and mist, mirages, optical illusions, like when we drove across the desert, those shimmering pools of witch water flooding the Mojave Highway ahead, really just images of the sky reflected in the thin layer of scorched air hovering above the torrid roadbed. Or like when we hiked the Diablo foothills and dragged our weary boots up over what we thought was the last ridge to the top, only to discover it was just another false peak, and the real summit still loomed above us. We'd been fooled again. It was just a trick of perspective, an optical illusion. Or like when we fought so passionately, so recklessly for revolution and love and social justice, but as soon as we got so near, we could almost touch our visions and dreams with our outstretched fingers. They always receded, as if suddenly snatched from our grasp. All our dreams and visions faded into the mist and shadows. But now, with distance and time, I have a cleaner angle and a better attitude and perspective on all that confusion and hurt. And I can see now that you were right. We probably were just chasing shadows, phantoms, mirages, optical illusions in the smoke and mists and fogs of lost battles. But what if battles and loves and revolutions and social justice are lost or won not in bedrooms, streets, or halls of power, but in the ambiguous spaces between words, in the warped mirrors of everyday life, in the mirages, distractions, optical delusions, and tricks of perspective? Palette knives. An artist can never remove anything from a canvas. You can only add to it. Even when you take a palette knife and scrape off the paint, you are still adding to it. That's what Charlie DiGiulio, an old artist friend of mine, said back around 1967. Our lives are like that. We can't erase mistakes. We might wish we had done things differently, apologize, or try to make restitution for wrongs we've done to others, words thoughtlessly spoken. We cannot withdraw them, just as we can never erase the great crimes and injustices of history, war, conquest, slavery, make them to have never happened. Our past words and acts can never be undone, no matter how much we might wish to. We can never remove the past. What happened, happened. Words once spoken, acts once acted, are forever. We exist only in this moment with our memories of the past, which may or may not be what actually happened, and our dreams of the future. A hand appears and writes on the wall. Shelter in place. If the entire economy collapses, are they going to throw us all out on the street? As we plunge into this blind storm, desperation lurking in every shadow, the unknown sweeping away every high water and low water mark, the old casino house rules now dim false memories, relentless bills piling up and up, tornadoes roiling every dark cloud, cataclysmic change swirling among the reckless wise women of the craft, the unthinkable becoming common sense. All too soon, tens of millions of us may not be able to pay our rent or mortgage or afford to feed our kids. We're not just helpless victims of a housing heartless system. We can't escape to outer space. If your rent's overdue, but you still can't pay, shelter in place. If your mortgage banker threatens, shelter in place. If you shout at City Hall, but they won't listen at all, if the sheriff's a disgrace and the police get in your face, tell your neighbors, blow the conch shell, sound the call, defend our earthly home from the banker catacomb. Don't submit, don't be compliant, don't obey, unite, defiant. If your credit's overdrawn, shelter in place. If an agent's banging on your door, shelter in place. If you have no place to stay and the next check's far away, move into an empty building, shelter in place. If your bank account's malignant, if your mortgage is delinquent, ignite the housing justice lights. If they're coming to evict you, don't surrender, get indignant. A home to live in is a human right, shelter in place.
I like that. I like that.
Cloud castles. After all this blood, here we are, still torn in this crisis of destruction and delusion. At a time like this, as pestilence stalks every street, how can we even think of celebration? Remember that hazy summer day? We lay side by side in the grass, gazing lazily into the clouds. Tell me, what do you see? A dolphin jumping through a wave, a swaying palm tree, a field of corn, a rhinoceros horn. Wind and rain, the shapes change. A swooping bumblebee, a storm raging at sea, a crimson bird soaring along the horizon, a frowning clown, an angry crowd, a thundering herd of bison. Look up into the sky, into the clouds. Tell me what you see. Grim masks in crowded dungeons, prisoners whispering forbidden thoughts forever unfinished, midwives hugging bleeding infants, orphans holding endless wakes, widows seizing desperate moments, windows shattering lost childhoods, concrete collapsing bridges and dams, toxic water gushing through neighborhoods, broken priests torturing war dogs, everyday terror and plunder, boys murdering men, murdering women, forests blazing, animals fleeing, all the great grandchildren scream, the gangster banker regime, the loathsome empire's last bitter crimes, drip, drip, dripping dark splatters of blood on the last rotting dreams, clotting in the last gutter. None of this will ever be forgotten. Yet it is written, invincible regimes collapse, all powerful empires swept away to nowhere. New civilizations arise from the earth with a kiss. The clouds change. The moment of celebration is to be. Remember that hazy summer day we lay lazily in the grass, gazing up into the sky. Tell me, what do you see? Lovers in a filthy jail, the rings on a tiger's tail, salmon creeks, flamingo beaks, gazing gazelles, Buddha bells, flowering Joshua trees, sunrise over turquoise seas. The little girl who smiled. With senses not dulled, not yet dulled, not yet compromised by the baggage and burdens of daily life, the newborn see everything around them differently. I was sitting alone at a table when the restaurant door opened and a toddler, still shaky on her feet, entered, holding Daddy's hand. She turned to me, eyes deep and ageless, and burst into a smile. All the sunshine in the world poured through her. She was a saint, fully enlightened in the glory, essence, and truth, seeing things as they really are. Like a finger from the sky, her smile opened my eyes. The world is renewed in each child. And it's called a regime change. At moments such as these, when epics end and begin, they say a crack opens between worlds, just for an instant, then quickly shuts again. The great leader is on his deathbed. His eyes stare at nowhere. Rot grips down his face wrinkles. You can smell him. The room is airless. The paint peels off the walls. The one small dirty window hasn't been opened in years. A droplet hovers on the tip of the great leader's nose. Suddenly he looks his age. In the waiting room, the regime bureaucrats eye each other suspiciously and finger their weapons. Outside the casino, in the street, the crowd murmurs. Around the corner, the enforcers turn off their body cameras. They make no attempt to hide it anymore. Abuse is law. Wealth and power beyond bankers' wildest dreams. The rest of us strapped to the rack. The executioner turns the wheel. The speculators wet wager on the precise instant our backbones will snap. If you're hoping it gets better, you better just get used to it. It doesn't get any better than this. This is utopia. This is capitalist utopia, as good as it gets. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of waiting. That rumbling in the distance, that shuddering in the air, just the wind maybe, or the shadows, but I don't think so. Something's coming. You can feel it. You can hear it. The flares in the sun, those tides on the beach, that trembling under our feet, the clock hands spinning round and round, the newspapers blowing down and down, that night train, that freight train, 100 boxcars long, barreling toward us through the moonless desert night, down this godforsaken dead-end street. What's in those boxcars, I wonder? What are they bringing where? Total devastation, the end of life as we know it, or the simplest of all, the hardest to reach? Just the basics, please. the fundamentals, a sunny afternoon, picnic on a blanket, biting into a ripe peach, the greenness of the trees, the kids rolling in the weeds, homes to live in, healthy food to eat, schools, doctors, a little spending money, and time, precious time, at moments such as these, when epics end and begin. They say a crack opens between worlds just for an instant, then quickly shuts again. Seize the instant, regime change now.